Hey, good evening. We almost forgot about y'all. We were steady talking about kids and family
Listen.
and all that. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sip and Chat on a Friday night with Relationship Flow. You got Dr. Carissa here. What was that? You got Dr. Carissa here, and I'm sipping on some water tonight. It may get a little stronger later on in the evening, but for now, I'm sipping on some water, trying to do the right thing.
I hear
Daryl,
you.
how are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm sipping on some of the finest air that we have around.
Sipping on air tonight? Okay, that
Sipping on
always
air tonight.
works. That always works. You need that. You need it.
Yeah.
Any current events, Daryl?
Um, I've seen a couple of things that I briefly saw today. One was, and I don't know the full story. It was I guess a young black guy, and I don't know if he hit on the white man's girlfriend or he said something to her in maybe the club or wherever they were at. Then outside again, he said something to her. Um, they got into a fight, and the white guy ended up shooting the black guy and killing him.
Oh,
And then they,
wow.
I guess, and they uh, locked the white guy up and all these things. But then they decided not to bring him up on any charges today. And some people were really
Really?
outraged about that. And again, I don't know enough about the story, really all the details, but I was like, wow, once again, life is lost, and seems like nothing is done about it.
Wow.
So
Wow. That's
yeah,
crazy.
straight bugged
That's
out.
crazy.
Um, but other than that, I haven't really been following much. News is depressing.
Yes,
try to stay
exactly. That's
try
why I
to stay
don't have
away from that.
anything. That's why I don't have everything. Anything. It's
I
always
watch
the same thing. Somebody got shot. Somebody got the
yeah.
virus. Like
hmm
those are the two stories they talk about all day, every day.
Well,
You get
I can
tired
go
of
ahead.
listening to that.
So one thing that did come up, they were asking a question if you are uh, pro-black, and you're leading one a pro-black movement, like you're really active in it. Is it can you have a white wife and be
Wow.
pro-black?
Interesting question.
It definitely was, and it was. I seen.
Was this a Twitter thing?
I don't know where exactly came from. When I came in on it, I saw it somewhere, and I, was talking about it with many people.
Hmm.
Um, and it is very interesting when you start to think about it. Because at first, I believe I said you can, right, because you're
Mhm.
what you're doing for a movement um, should be, the fruits of whatever you're doing should be the most important thing. Uh, but they're like, well, as soon as you do something wrong, they're gonna look back at your white wife. They're gonna always anything you do wrong, it's gonna bring reproach. So I can see how some people
Mm.
uh, could discredit the work you do uh, because you have a white wife or a white husband, whatever the
Mhm.
case may be. Because it was funny, I forget the guy's name, but one guy who is really into keeping up on the news of things that happen to black people. He's definitely one of the people you look to uh, when you're looking for that black news, that what's going on, the
Mhm.
injustice that happened. He's on it, and he just recently came out and you see pictures of his. I think he's engaged. He's about to get
Mhm.
married, and he's white. And now people are like, oh, they're trying to, like, invalidate him now.
Mhm.
But like, he was cool the day before,
Right, right, right.
before the pictures came out. He was, he was somebody we went to and we listened to, but now he's not because he has a white wife. And I say, as long as you don't think that black women are not attractive, as long as you're
Mhm.
not that, like, that's fine. Like, if you just, if you love who you love, I don't think that makes you any less or more than anything. You can love anybody, but I think that as long as you don't look at, if you're black women as being, not attractive or something like that, I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
But some people think that if you're pro-black, that means you're against the others.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what I said too. I said, we a pro-black doesn't mean that you don't see anything else, right? We want to, be able to be ourselves, right? And be who we are, and have equal access to things, and but that's also in who we love or who we want to be with. Is all that encompasses in that. It doesn't mean you don't see anything else, and you only can be black, and you only can buy black, and you only can wear black. No, it doesn't. We have to.
You only see black.
Yeah, right. And I think people have their different views of it, but I think sometimes we get too restrictive, and we're actually doing ourselves an injustice by being too restrictive in our site. I mean, so I don't know. It was very interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think like what you said, the reason behind dating somebody of another race, I think people find that important. Like if you think that if you date somebody outside of the race because you think that, all right, I'm leveling up, then that's a problem.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then I don't think that's been charged.
Right. That's something that's been talked about in the black community for a long time.
Absolutely.
It's like if a black man gets some status and some money, where he going? That's what that's what they talk about. He's gonna go find a white girl.
But like I said, sometimes where you're on these levels, you start dating who's around you.
Yes, right? That's true.
And if it's no other black faces in that room, sometimes it's difficult. And you just we usually date in proximity. Who we work with, who's at our grocery store we frequent. We usually date in those circles. So if your circle is one where there's not many brown faces, you can't just you shouldn't have to just pick the only other brown face in the room, to hold your black card. You two have to be together. Only darkies in here. And I don't think that's necessarily how it's supposed to work.
But yeah, you're right though. I think that's the part that I think people miss, because when you do have more money and you're in those rooms, more money, more status, you're in those rooms where there are few people of color.
Absolutely. Sometimes there definitely is, so yeah, I think we have to look at the reasoning or where they're positioning, where they're at, and that definitely plays a role in sometimes who you become intimate with. That's you might sometimes even wherever you're at, just by being around somebody a few times, starting talking to them alone about getting to know them, they may become more attractive, and they weren't even on your radar. Like, this wasn't on my radar. This was not supposed to happen. It happened organically just because we were able to speak to each other.
I think that's how how a lot of rappers end up with strippers.
No, they end up with strippers because they're going to buy them, and the strippers stay around. The strippers staying around the money.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Now you talk about proximity and access.
Yeah,
the strippers can be the strippers. They're in those rooms. Not a regular Susie from around the way. She not in those rooms.
Hey, well, I mean, I don't know how many they're keeping. They I don't know how many wiping strippers up. I mean, they knocking them down. But
every now and then
they
wipe them. Every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then they get trapped. But most another strip room the next night, you in another whole club. So I don't know.
I mean, for a while they had young women thinking stripping is a stripper is what you should be.
Yeah, they did.
If you want access, look, this is what you gotta do.
Tell them that lie.
Yes. Anything else? I mean, I just I don't want to talk about the killing and the COVID and sick of talking about that stuff.
Right. It is
The news does a bang up job of putting it in our face every day, all day.
all day. That's all you hear.
Mhm.
And it kind of makes you think that that's all there is, to be honest. As
Yes,
you start thinking like, soon as you get out of the house, you can get shot or catch
yes,
the Rona. I'm shot or the Rona. That's all happens. I'm gonna get
yes.
shot,
That's it.
Rona, or kidnapped.
That's it. That's it.
shot, Rona, kidnapped, or run into a Karen. Like that's it.
Oh, I forgot about the Karens.
Yeah. That's it. Right now, like, that's what's heavy right now.
Yeah,
So,
The Karens are out there though. I went to look at a house in another neighborhood, and someone approached us. I said, "Hey, you think about buying this house?"
you
I'm like, "Yes, I'm thinking
don't
about it."
you don't
And
want to
she
live
was
in this
like,
neighborhood. It's terrible.
"Oh, oh."
She should have. Did she say, "Can you afford it?"
I think that's what the O meant.
Yeah. Are you sure you can afford it?
Yeah, I think that was the O. Like,
You don't.
okay.
You don't
I don't
accept
think I
HUD
want to
around
live next
here.
door to her.
Yeah.
I don't need those kind of problems.
Right.
It's a shame, but it is. It's like that. It's
It
like
is.
that.
Yes, it is.
It's like that.
Gotta
No.
be careful with these people.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Be careful.
Yes. Yes. I was talking to someone who's having a similar issue with a neighbor, where the neighbor keeps calling the police on her son, and all he's
Oh
doing is
yeah.
sitting on his step with his friends.
Yeah.
You know.
Sometimes you ain't gotta
And
call them. They just come over.
yeah, and not understanding the severity of calling the police on a black young man.
Oh, I think they understand the severity. They know exactly what they're doing. They know
Mm,
exactly what you're doing. Because as soon as you call the police, you invite a gun to whatever the situation is. That's what you
mm-hmm.
did. You invited a gun to that situation. So I think a lot of them know what they're doing, right?
Mm.
And they're so privileged. They think that the police are at their beck and call and are going to clean up whatever's going on over there.
Yeah, very true.
And that's the problem. So truly believe they know what they're doing when they call the police. Um, with because even usually the descriptions they give are kind of like, I don't know what they're doing. They're
Yeah,
up to
yeah,
something, and
yes,
they're sitting on their step. You see them
yeah,
sitting on the step.
yeah.
They're laughing on the phone or whatever, and the descriptions they give put the police on alert.
Mm-hmm.
On more alert. It's like black, and I don't know what they're doing. They look like they're doing something. They're doing something. We're going to come with a whole different mentality to
Mm-hmm.
that call. So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Mm-hmm. That makes you wonder though, is it worth it moving to a neighborhood like that? You wanna move to a really nice neighborhood, a real nice school district if you got kids and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
it makes you wonder, like, should I wait till it changes a little more? Like, do I want to be the first black family on the block?
Right. And it's a real life question, because even when I moved, I got questions. I remember I was so like the audacity. The guy came over and asked me, like, "What do you do to have his house and car and motorcycle and bike? You
My
live by
God.
yourself, right?" So I told him I sell drugs. Um,
I bet
he
he
ain't
wasn't
talked to me since.
expecting that.
Walked away. Never. I ain't talked to him since. I've been here, I think 9, 10 years. I ain't talked to him since.
Good.
And I remember when I used to do my training out front. They called the cops one time. Somebody called the cops. But the cop was cool. He came up. He pulled up. He's like, man, don't even stop. You know, because somebody called. I see you working out. I'm not even gonna bother you with this. Keep doing what you're doing. You feel me? And kept it moving. But he was a good cop, so that was definitely a dope. The way he handled it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, is it a good question? I think is it worth it? I think it is contingent upon how bad it is. How bad the neighbors are.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it helps you to you're going to deal with adversity, right? You're going to deal with it. and you have to learn how to deal with it at the end of the day. So sometimes you gotta, you pay to play. You want these different, with these different atmospheres, different environments to live in. You gotta pay a couple dollars, and you might put up with something. I mean, whatever neighborhood you're in, you're putting up with something. You know what I mean? You definitely are putting up with something. So, as long as it ain't too bad, ain't no crosses burning on my lawn or nothing like that.
You've been
it ain't
lucky.
worth it if that's happening. Yeah, if that happens, it's not worth it.
I had a family member that moved to the Northeast many, many years ago, and someone there wasn't a cross burned on her lawn, but they had painted some really nasty stuff on her sidewalk in front of her house.
Wow.
Wow.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's really tough. Especially if you have kids, because I think I can deal with more. But if it started affecting my daughter, if somebody, then that's an issue. That's a real issue. And that's going to put me in a place where I'm going to have the silver bracelets on my arms from the police. If they do something to her.
Or say something really nasty to her. Yeah.
But I believe in having my hose in the front of my house all the time. So when people do come up acting crazy or talking crazy, I just start watering my grass. And if they get hit, it's not on purpose. It's just how I handle things. I used to carry a water gun in my car for the same reason, just in case somebody wanted to ask me dumb questions. I just start spraying it by them, and they get sprayed by mistake on purpose. But now it's too dangerous. And now it's too dangerous to do that. So
Yeah, for real, because somebody will pull out a real gun and shoot by you on purpose.
Absolutely. So
these people out here just spraying everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's a serious question. I know the opposite of that. When areas are gentrified, people that are not of color don't have a problem moving back into the neighborhood.
Well, usually
they don't
because
feel the same kind of angst that we would.
Well, they don't move back in until usually that police presence is heavy. Right, they're not moving because I know when they did it downtown, the new Camden City Police were down there. It was just different. So they enforced laws different, especially downtown. They're forcing everybody out. They where they are, they police it heavily, a lot differently than they police outside. So they're not moving in until it's they got angst. They see too many of us. Whoa, it ain't ready yet. I'll give it a year or two. So what are we talking about tonight, Doc?
Tonight we are talking about corporal punishment. That's what we're talking about tonight. Corporal punishment. Is it needed? Does it work? What are the alternatives? So what
uppercut.
What came to my mind, the first thing that came to my mind is the idea of spare the rod, spoil the child.
Right.
That was a whole reason for whooping on your kid. If you don't do it, then they're going to be spoiled and messed up and think the world owes them something, and what are all the other negative things that could possibly happen. But I think that overall, research has shown that it's not really as effective as we think it is.
Not effective at all. That's what research shows. No, uppercutting your kid really doesn't work. Okay, wheel kicks don't work. Choking them.
Well, dang.
Body shots. Because really the loss of things, of something they want, or PlayStation, something like that, usually is a more effective way of getting the child to do something, because it's more meaningful.
Hey, Neil.
Okay, well, there's only one other person on the line now, so I don't know. And you're late, 8:20. We ain't even shouting you out. We'll talk to you at 8:40 because you late. You penalized. But another thing with corporal punishment, it's funny because different cultures, do different things that, would be considered corporal punishment that maybe, like I know, like kneeling on rice is something
Yeah, I've heard
some
of that.
cultures do, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which, is very painful. You're not hitting the child. So like, we're not hitting you. It's making you kneel in the corner on rice for hours. So, that tears knees up, but that's corporal punishment. But, making the kid stand in a corner for too long, right? If your timeouts are an hour and the kid is 6, that's technically corporal punishment.
That's
I don't know
kind
what
of
that.
out of proportion.
Absolutely, but people do it. They'll have you stand in the corner for a half hour. Even a half hour is too long. 15 minutes is too long, really, to stand in the corner because I don't know what it's doing. And usually my issues around any type of punishment is the parent, right? Because you can't try to, rear your child in the fourth quarter. Like if they're 6 and now you're trying to get them to stop doing these things that you thought were cute, well, that's not their fault. You can't. How are you punishing them for your parenting, right? Because you didn't put the work in early to get these kids to understand that what's right or wrong or what you expect from them, and now you want them all of a sudden to do something they really never had to do. So you're punishing them for your lack of parenting, and that's a problem for me. That's a real problem for me.
So if you said every time they dropped the F-bomb, you laughed. Now they dropping the F-bomb at school. Now you want to smack them in the mouth.
Right. When man is 3 and 4, talking, F you, mommy. Now when he gets older, man doing the same thing he's been doing, and now you are acting different, right? So you're really the problem because now you're making something that was okay an issue, and it's difficult to understand how you said it was okay or you allowed it to happen, and now all of a sudden you want me to stop doing something, or the parent at home let the kid be wild, but when they go to the neighbor house, they want them to act quote unquote right. Well, how are they gonna know how to act right? You can't yell at me from jumping on the couch at home. I mean, you don't yell at me from jumping out the couch at home, but then when I go to the neighbor's house, you don't yell at me jumping on the couch. I don't know the difference. You said it's okay to jump on the couch, so now you're trying to punish me in front of people because you embarrassed I'm an animal, but I'm an animal because you allowed me to be an animal, right? It's so, and then now you want to spank me or do whatever, but it's not my fault, really. It's not the child's fault. It's the lack of parenting that led to the child acting the way he acts or she acts.
And I've heard people say that they would only they've spanked their child only when they were younger because they weren't able to understand anything else. So they would spank them to correct the behavior, but as they got older, they didn't have to, hit their kid anymore because they, knew what the rules are. So, for instance, a 2 or 3 year old that runs out into the street, you smack them on the butt. Don't do that. Then they stop running in the street. But if you try to sit them down and say, "Hey, you can't run into the street. You're going to get hit by a car." That's like,
no, they understand that. They do understand that. They understand when you say no, they can, and if you're, so, we all know parenting is about being consistent. If every time, first of all, my question is, how are the kids running into the street? What is your 3-year-old doing, or what are you not doing that the 3-year-old is running in the street? See, I have a problem already, lack of parenting. The kids shouldn't be running in the street. They are not needed, Miss Clark. Okay, they are never needed. So spanking's really from what I saw when the studies and seen in different studies, spanking only really shows that child that if someone is bigger than them, right? Because you can't spank me using your same size as me, so I'm not afraid of you. So spanking says you have to be only afraid of somebody that can do that to you, right? So now what happens is if you get into a position where that kid is maybe he's bigger than an adult, or that's a small teacher or something like that who can't spank them, they're not afraid. They can go up top on that teacher because what they learned was when something happens, I get spanked. Right? So I'm afraid of the person spanking me because they can control me, they can do it. But if you can't control them, you can't spank them, then they have no respect for you, right? That spanking is not teaching them respect. It's not teaching, it's teaching them fear, right? And that doesn't really work. And I mean, again, so some of it, what was I about to say? I lost my train of thought. But anyway, spanking just doesn't work because it's a show of force. It shows that when you do something, the way to respond is through physical retaliation to whatever's going on. So now when they're in school, somebody do something to them, what are they going to do? When they're wrong, they're going to right it by a physical means because that's what you're showing them. You're showing them to not talk things out, right? You're showing them when somebody does something wrong, you put hands and feet on them.
And feet?
And feet. You understand? Turn up. That's what you inadvertently just taught your child. Right? So that's why I don't think that spanking works. You sit down and you communicate to your child what's going on, what you want, and how, whatever the case may be. It works a lot better. To me, this works a lot better. I couldn't see. And real fast, what kind of person are you? And this is me. So if you spank your kids, you're gonna be upset, but who cares? What kind of person are you to hit a kid? Like to hit a kid, like I can't hit something I love, right? So how could I hit my child? That to me is bananas. Like I just couldn't just hit my child with a belt, a hand, uppercut, wheel kick. I don't know how you do that and still love your child. I'm doing this because I love you. Bow. That really love? I don't know.
Why do you think is needed, Ms. Clark? Give us some more. Tell us why you think why you think spankings are definitely needed. But I know that research has shown that it teaches kids it's okay to hit. Absolutely. That's for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it also shows lack of creativity from the parent on how to deal with the situation. You're just really going to the lowest form of we'll say punishment. I'm just gonna beat you because I don't have the words. Because I don't have the words to talk to you. I don't know how to fix the situation. I'm just gonna beat you. It doesn't make rational sense. So even as you grow up, it's like, can you resolve anything that way? If something goes wrong, somebody does something wrong, can you beat them? No. It doesn't make sense. Like, we know it doesn't make sense. We only do it to a child because we think we can, because they're smaller or whatever the case may be. But it doesn't work in real life. So why would you think it works with your child? Again, to me, that's a lack of control, a lack of controlling yourself, first of all, because to hit somebody, I've never hit somebody when I was happy. Like, hey, like you're losing control as well. You're showing your child you're not keeping your cool at that point.
Well, some people think, and this is a question that we also often ask parents when we're talking about parenting skills. Some people think that hitting a child out of love is different than hitting a child out of anger.
Okay, so like I said, who you punch that you love, and if you do, that's a perverted love, right? There's no relationship. There's no other time you can punch somebody that you care about and be okay
I'm sure
with
you've heard many of guys say, "I loved her." Well, she walk around with two black eyes.
Right. Ike told Tina he loved her. What love got to do with it, huh? Uppercuts and wheel kicks. There's no other time or place that works. Only with our children. That just right there doesn't make sense. It doesn't track. It doesn't track. And again, and it only works as long as you're stronger than that child. When that child turns, you know what? Then people talk about, well, when they get older, I have to beat them no more, because you can't. These little kids grow up big and strong, and you can try it if you want to, but it's going to be fight. Right? Do you want to fight one of these young whippersnappers? I don't think you do. You know, because it's all fun until the rabbit has the gun. So that when the kid gets older and you try to beat them and they grab that belt for the first time, like, hey, listen, I ain't taking no more of these. There you go. Too much to explain, too many different scenarios, different kids, different situation there, many success stories. And guess what? There's many successful slaves. They was beat. Are we advocating like, you know what, you're beat slave? No, beat is not the way to go. just because you overcome a situation, because we overcome a lot of situations that happen to us that are abusive when we're younger, right? A lot of situations. We're not going to say, well, the abuse worked. They came out on the other end, they're successful. No, the child was successful in spite of the beatings, in spite of the abuse.
You said Drake had to catch the hands a couple times. That's her youngest son.
Again, and what does that really do? Now I see my mom is an animal. She's gonna beat me. I'm gonna catch these hands. And again, you only do it so long because when they get big enough, the hands ain't gonna be effective. And then when they throw one back, what you gonna do? Because you taught them that hitting was how you solve problems. So when you get the uppercut back, you earn that because that's the way you set it up. You set it up.
I don't think that it often goes that way though. I don't think, I know it happens sometimes, but I don't think it often happens that the kids start fighting you back.
What you talk about? It happens a lot. It happens a lot where kids start fighting parents back, especially today. That's why parents ain't beating nobody. You're gonna get beat up later. Listen, if you give it out, if you dish it, you better can take it. Right? You better be able to take it. It sounds good because again, all we're teaching children and displaying is aggression. Right? You're really displaying aggression to solve a problem. Which, if you have to beat them more than once, then you didn't solve the problem. If you got to beat them 2 and 3, 4 or 5 times for the same thing, if they're getting in trouble in school all the time and doing this, that, and next, and beating them, what's the next level? What do you do then? I done beat them 4 times.
What if all the beatings are something new?
Say again?
I said, what if all the beatings are for something new? So you get beat for each new offense.
Well, then listen, a lot of beatings, and they're not working because they keep going. That's my thing. Is it working? And then what's the next level?
She said sometimes they need reminders.
Right. They need a reminder they got a terrible parent who doesn't know how to raise them right, and this is why they're acting up. Because again, you're really helping to raise potentially someone that's just very aggressive, and that I don't understand. They're gonna pass that on. There's, like I said, studies show that the loss of things. Like for me, I know if I tell my daughter she can't have her phone, it's like the end of the world. I think she'd rather say beat me so I can get it over with, so I can get back on my phone, right? Because the phone is really damaging and is really affecting her life. That beating doesn't really affect your life. Again, who's putting them in timeout? Timeout to me is not really effective either. Go stand there.
Really?
So what is timeout really showing? You're just standing there. You lose some time, right? But that's not a big deal, right? Because again, PlayStation is going to outdo everything in their life. Their phones outdo anything in their life. Like technology right now is what's heavy for them, right? Technology or TikTok or something like that is really heavy. I've seen kids go into almost coma when they say they can't have TikTok no more. Like, that's very effective, right? That's very effective. And you control that but you can't, like, actually, you know what? I'm not having phone, etc. Again, but then you can up it. Like, there's different things, and what it has to do, you have to be creative. You have to find out what works for that child. Children are going to mess up, right? They're going to mess up. That doesn't mean you beat them. Are they
like
not going to mess
now,
up again?
telling a kid they have to stay in the house might not work as well. Because it's like,
Absolutely.
who wants to go outside anyway? I want to be on my computer, talking to my friends, playing my games.
Yeah. So, like I said, the loss of a computer right now is really detrimental, right? But see, that's the other thing we got to understand. You think that kids, just because you beat them, are they going to stop the behavior? Most likely not, right? Because kids, anything we do is going to take multiple times, and then multiple times on top of that to teach someone to do something. You got to keep telling the kid over and over. That's what needs to be reinforced, why they shouldn't do it. You know, you have to talk to your kids, explain why, and understand they're going to mess up, right? But even in their mess ups, you got to talk to them so they grow through that, right? Because again, beating, then what you going to talk to me after you beat me? I don't like you right now. You just beat me. My butt is sore. I can't hear anything you're saying. Yeah. So, so I think really the best thing to do is talk to them and understand why they're doing something wrong and keep explaining it to them, and give them a healthy respect for
authority.
You know, if they do something wrong, their authority. And again, we have to understand they're going to do things wrong. We can't make them feel bad and feel like they're a terrible person because they did something wrong. So I mean, we'll be hypocrites. We do things wrong, but understand, you know, hey, look, you can't be talking in class when the teacher's talking. The rules are the rules. Listen, you talk, so you're going to lose. You're not going to be able to talk on your phone for X amount of times, right?
So not you talk back to the teacher, I'm going to punch you in your mouth.
No, because when the teacher talks back to her, she's going to punch the teacher in the mouth. and the other thing with those threats that, you know, the other thing, you can't have idle threats, right? If you're going,
that's right.
If you're going to say you're going to punch him in the mouth, then you got to
punch him in the mouth at some point.
Yeah,
you got to do it.
And if you don't,
you
got to punch them out. And now, what's the next level, right? Because I think there's punishment the first time they do something. You can't. Am I beating you the first time you do something? Okay, cool. Well, then the next time you make a mistake, what's the next level? Beat you again? Well, now I had the beating already. I get used to it. You have beaten me. This is what it is. It's gonna hurt for a little while, but I'll be back to doing whatever I'm doing, right? And then you can make a kid even like beating at a certain point. You just you gotta be careful, right? But like I said, I think we have to talk to our children and explain what's going on, and then have different levels to the game, right? You know, it has to be, well, look, this time, look, you did something, don't do it again. If you do it again, all right, I'm gonna take your phone, and I'm gonna take this. And then after a while, you gotta say, you know what, there's something really wrong here if they can't get it, right? They continue, if they're habitual line crosser over, you have to do something different. You have to, again, so a beating, where does the beating go? That was my question to anybody beats their children. Where does it go? What's the next level? You know, you go from belts to elbows, the rock elbow, uppercut to knees. Like, where do you go? You boxing them outside in the street. There's no other level to beating a kid. You know what I'm saying? There's no other level. And that's the thing.
Yeah, you're right about the idle threats. I hear people say, you touch that, I'm gonna cut your fingers off. That doesn't work, because now your child knows that your threats mean nothing.
Absolutely.
And you can't discipline with empty threats.
Absolutely not. I still have my fingers. I'm going to do it again.
Yes, exactly. But sometimes when you get so upset, you start saying things that you have no intention of doing.
So once again, that's bad parenting. I believe in bad parenting. I don't believe that the children are necessarily bad, because they're learning. And if you're not teaching them correctly, then they're only doing what they are allowed to do, right? And if a child, and we have to also be honest with ourselves, if a child is consistently not getting it, if you consistently have to beat them, consistently have to punish them, there's something else going wrong. Get that child some counseling so that we can get to the bottom of it and maybe get them some help, right? Because there may be some issues there that are bigger than so for me, I was dyslexic, didn't know it, right? So I'm acting out in school. So it was nothing that could be done. Like, mom, like, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna do this. I continued to act out because I was dyslexic, which made me have behavior issues because I didn't want to read. When it's, it's so anxious you are when you sitting down a list and everybody's reading and you're next.
Yes.
So before I get next, I'm gonna show off. I'm gonna show out. Okay. I'm gonna turn out. I'm gonna get kicked out of class. It's gonna be funny.
Right.
You feel me? So if they would have took the time to say, you know what's really wrong with this kid, right? He's getting in trouble all the time. The punishment's not gonna work because it can't outdo my embarrassment So I'll take the punishment, but I ain't gonna read in front of you. What's that? I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna be him. So I'll take that beating. I'll take the uppercuts and wheel kicks over that. So at a certain point, we have to understand that. See, exactly. That's what they thought. So if someone would have took the time to say, you know what, let me invest in this, let me see what's going on, get them some counseling, some therapy, which in our community we don't do. We just think that the kid is bad or think they don't want to be right. Sometimes we can't. And if I would have got someone that would have took a step and got counseled, somebody would have seen there was something wrong, it would have been a world of difference. So the beating, but at a certain point, we have to understand that whatever we're doing may not be working, but what's the next step? You can't keep beating the kid for 13 years, right? And then obviously as you get older, you ain't got that strength and time. A young parent can beat all the time. You get older, you ain't got time for it. Like, I can't. Hey, go upstairs. So I think that's the other thing is, that's another reason beatings to me are ineffective, because I don't think you have a plan for outside of the beating.
I think you're right. The next level, there's no plan for the next level, because the beating is the highest level and you start there.
Absolutely. Where are you going? Like I said, and that means your beatings have to increase, right? Now you're beating the kid up, right? Now you're beating them up. Now it becomes a really abusive situation because, and it's because you're frustrated. You're so frustrated that this kid continues to be, break the rules, continues not to do whatever. Now you're beating him harder. Now you're using this, and that's not going to work. Like I said, that beating, like I said, it's not going. It usually doesn't stop anything. It doesn't, because again, beating doesn't tell me why I did something wrong or how to fix it. And I need to know why, how. You need to direct your kids and let them start to respect authority, right? Because what you're doing by beating them, you're teaching them the only way really to listen is if they turn up. So when that police officer comes in and they have the engagement with the police officer, they're like, well, he ain't touching me, so what you mean? I ain't did nothing. He's soft. And they're going to push it until they get touched. Right. And I've seen that in some programs I worked in where some of the kids love to be restrained, or they didn't feel like it was a consequence unless they were restrained.
Wow.
So I was like, yo, we're not restraining anybody, right? Unless they're really in imminent danger. Because a lot of times these programs use the restraints incorrectly, right? They use them to get their child to do whatever they want them to do. And I'm like, yo, we ain't doing that. We're only going to restrain if they're imminent. What we'll do, we just, we'll follow them to make sure they're safe, but we ain't going to touch them. And I had kids like, yo, you ain't going to restrain me? You ain't going to restrain me? Well, go get somebody who is. Go get somebody who's going to restrain me. Because they were so used to the physical that they needed the physical to feel they got a consequence. And that's what we do. We start showing these kids a perverted love, a love where beating is okay. I'm beating because I love you. What do you mean? What message are you really sending when you say that? I love you and I'm beating you. I'm confused. Like I said, if we're adults, that doesn't work. I can't tell my paramour, yo, I gave you a cut because you had too much salt in the chicken, but I love you. It doesn't work in any other environment. Like it just doesn't. So if we don't want the kids to grow up with that type of mentality, we can't beat it into them as they're young, because their base is really hard to shake. This is their base. It's really hard to shake. So now you give them something to overcome.
You never see. You don't see any type of situation where it's warranted.
No, not at all. Okay. There's none. Because like I said, there's no situation when you're grown that is warranted. Because we know that's not going to teach you not to do anything again. It's not teaching you not to do anything. It may teach you not to do anything around when I'm right there, right? Because I might punch in your eye.
Yeah, because you're not going to oversalt the chicken again. That's for sure.
So in that situation, you're going to make sure you don't, right? But then you have a whole bunch of other issues because of that, right? Because your fear, you're walking on eggshells, and then that's also what you're doing to your kid, right? You're making them now walk on eggshells because because getting beat is serious. Like a loss or something is is traumatic in a different way. They oh, I can't play with my phone. Oh, my phone is different than getting beat, physically hurt. Because remember, you see your mom or dad hitting you, and they're supposed to love me, but they're beating me. It's sending different messages. That's really a lot for a child to deal with. It really is, right? It really is. So now, how do I grow up and not have that mentality that you put into me? So now I got to fight that growing up. I got to fight, putting my hands on people because they did something wrong. You know what I mean? And then people always say, well, these kids out here are running rampant because they need to be beat. No, they need to be parented.
I've heard that quite often, that, if people were quote unquote allowed to beat their kids, we wouldn't have the situations that we have right now.
That's a lie. I mean, has there ever been a time where there wasn't a whole bunch of killing and murder and stuff like that? I'm pretty sure it wasn't. You know what I mean? It's just not. So we can dispel that by just looking at time and what happened. People have this. They want to relive things like the glory days, like kids didn't do that back in the day. Yes, they did. They did. It's a little different now because we have a lot more access to things, but things haven't really changed. We just have more access, right? So at the end of the day, it's parents. It's always been parents. And kids, I don't know if they require different levels of discipline. I think they require different levels of attention. So again, if your child is consistently not doing something right, that's because there's probably something wrong with them that needs to be addressed. Like I said, my own story, I know it's dyslexic, which led to me have a whole bunch of issues in school, right? Wasn't necessarily I was a bad kid, but a belt wasn't outdoing my dyslexia, so it wasn't changing my situation, right? Loss of things wasn't changing my situation because I had a problem that needed to be addressed before I could even sit down and really want to listen and do the right thing, right? So it was about a level of attention. A parent has to be attentive and not kind of, well, ain't nothing wrong with him. He just don't want to listen. No, there is something wrong. We have to stop denying that these children can have issues. Because sometimes parents internalize like, oh, I don't raise a kid that's slow. My kid ain't slow. Well, it may not be slow, but there's a lot of mental things that could be prohibiting a kid from acting right.
Of course, yes.
And we have to make the effort to say, you know what? All right, maybe they need somebody to talk to. Maybe they need a therapist, or let's get somebody else in here that maybe has a little bit of knowledge that maybe can help me help this child. That's what we need to do, because you're beating them. All you're doing is you're not helping the situation. There's nothing changing with the situation. You're just beating this kid. He's not getting the help he needs. So like, I know the beatings I got didn't help. It didn't help. We couldn't. My issues were bigger than the belt.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Did you not find out until you were an adult?
Yeah, I didn't find out until I was in high school. Year, I didn't find out. And then that's a whole other issue, because like I said, I was like, maybe I'm just dumb. Like, you start feeling like you're dumb.
Yeah.
You start feeding into it. And it just, I was a class clown because it became, my defense mechanism became almost innate, and now it's just me.
Yeah.
So now I'm acting up. You feel me? Now I'm acting up in class, making noises, doing all type of crazy stuff. But it's because I had an issue that, if it was resolved when I was younger, might have helped.
Right.
Might have helped a lot. Might have changed my whole trajectory. I might have been better in school if I could have sat and understood what was going on. Because my reading comprehension was terrible. I could read something and not understand it.
Okay.
I could read the whole page and I don't know what I read. What happened? I don't know. Don't ask me. And if you ask me, now I'm like, who you asking, bitch? I gotta go to office. Why I gotta go to office? What I go to office for? You know what I mean? So that kept me.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah, and that would keep the kids liking you and laughing. Really, not really. They're laughing at you more than with you. Yeah. But it also saved me from feeling as embarrassed because I couldn't read, or I couldn't spell that word, or I couldn't do this, right? So like I said, so I know from my own struggle, I don't know how many times you beat me. That wasn't going to beat the dyslexia out of me. I was still going to have it. I was still going to go to school the next day and not be able to read the words because they run around the age on me, you know. So it's really about parenting. You have to parent your child and assess your child and understand that if what you're doing, even if say you're beating them, if you're beating them a lot, you have to at a certain point say, this is not working. I need to do something else.
Right.
And that's the issue. That's the issue with going right to beating, because you just do it for everything. Everything. Pop, 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 pop. And that just teaches the kid not to tell you things, to hide things from you, because they're afraid. I can't really tell you I messed up because you may beat me, right? I can't tell you certain things because you may, go up top on me. I'm tired of fighting. I don't know, because you put your hands on kids. So I don't know if I wanted to be in your class. I ain't trying to fight no teacher. So,
but you raised enough. Go ahead.
No, but even with teachers have to try to really be aware, and that was tough when you have 30 kids in a class, right?
Yes.
And you have 30 kids in a class, and 29 of them have some type of issue. You can't refer them all, but it's tough. They try to have you kind of should try to help the kids as much as possible. Now, I'm not a teacher, and I don't know what it is to be a teacher, so I don't know if it's even possible. But say like, hey, listen, this kid needs to be assessed, or this kid. But then you gotta get the parents on board, and they're not on board. It's back to the parents. These parents, people shouldn't be having kids.
Look, when I was doing evaluations in the schools, I would have parents that live right across the street and wouldn't come across the street for the evaluation.
Right.
So yeah.
And you know why little man acting up.
Yes, exactly.
If your parents can't come across the street, that's why Peaches is cutting up every day.
Yes.
So go beat the parents. Beat the parents. I say if we can beat the parents, then I'm okay with beating kids. So if we can beat the parents for being bad parents, then you can beat the kids. So that's what I say. You know what I mean? Because it's tough because we really put we put a lot of weight on these children when they're learning. Yeah. We're putting a lot on they're learning. And we have to really do the best we can to teach them to respect people, right? To respect the punishment, right? You should be able to respect your punishment. Like, I did do something wrong. I'm doing this. Okay, I'm going to accept it. But I don't know who's accepting getting beat up. I'm not ever accepting that.
Well, and I think you said something about this a little bit a while ago, about the emotional abuse too, or the mental, when you say you can't read, what's wrong with your dumb ass? Why can't stuff like that? Right. It can be just as damaging as hitting them.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the same, right? Because it's the same abusive nature and. Yeah. But again, we're saying today, I think that's been consistent, right? We have a lot of these parents who are just young parents themselves, doing the best they can, which is just really not good enough. Kids are making it in spite of that, right? Because, they are, but I think that there need to be more parenting classes. Because again, remember, usually punishments and how you raise your kids is passed down from generation to generation. So you're only doing what they did to you. So if your mom was saying, you dumb bitch can't read, then you're saying, you dumb bitch you can't read. It's just getting passed down, right? That mentality is getting passed down. And these kids, or parents say things like, I know I was talking to a kid not too long ago, and the parent was trying to get them to do something, and they're a Christian, and they're like, well, you're going to hell. And when the rapture comes, you're gonna be left here. And the kid was like really upset about this. And I said, first of all, listen, it's not really true because all children go to heaven anyway. So you can tell her you're going to heaven regardless. But they shouldn't be talking to you like that. That's not a way to get a kid to respond, because again, it became emotional. They became emotionally affected. Like, oh my God, this is terrible. How can my mom say that to me? How can she say that to me? Right? So the kids can understand you losing something, and you should correlate. When you do something wrong, you lose something, right? And at the end of the day, if you do something wrong, you go to jail, you lose your time. So you correlate those things. They can understand that. But I can't understand why you're calling me this, that, or next, or calling me dumb, or you're stupid. I can't understand that. That's a different type of attack. That's a personal attack. That's someone who cares about me treating me like ish. And like I said, that can really go through the rest of your life. And now you're in an abusive relationship because you were in an abusive relationship all your life with your parents. Right? So we really have to think about what we're doing. It's easy to say, you know what, I'm going to beat this kid into being straight, to not acting up, it doesn't work that way.
No,
it doesn't.
But I think that goes back to the idea that fear is needed for your kids to respect you.
Yeah, and that's tough because I don't think it is, right? Like I said, fear means I have to fear you. And to fear you, I got to feel like you can do something to me.
You're going to hurt me. Yeah, you're going to hurt me.
Yeah, I got to feel that way. So when I worked in a behavioral school, that's what I learned. I learned from the jump that these kids, they responded to me differently. They were maybe responding to that little old teacher. They're not going to talk to me any type of way because the fear of me jumping on them. That little old lady, they know she ain't got any for them, so they're going to give her the business because what they learned was fear. I only respect what I'm afraid of. We have to help these kids have a healthy respect for authority, period. Independently of if she's 97 or 27, you still respect that person who's in that authority position. And that's what we have to do. That's why I said I don't think that putting your hands on your kids, or even if you're not hitting them, if you're talking to them crazy, and a teacher, I can't talk to you crazy, right? I can't say, look, sit down, fucker, sit down, you little bitch. I can't talk to you that way. So if the teacher doesn't do that, they're like, wow, they're soft. They ain't talking to me like my mom does to get me to react. So, hey, bitch, I ain't doing homework. So now you can be that way, right?
Yeah.
So we have to teach our children to respect authority. For my daughter, that's what I try to do. You respect authority. I don't care who it is, you respect it, right? You can always advocate for yourself. You say what you want to say one time, and then after that, you sit down, and then you go to someone else to get help. Or something later, right? We never go back and forth with anybody. But if we're going back and forth with each other, I don't care what I say. What I'm doing is going to overpower what I say. If I'm arguing with my kids, if people argue with their kids, like you really are setting up a bad example. So the problem with people who want to beat their kids is they're usually bad parents. I said it.
He said it.
I said it. Send all the hate mail you want so I can know who the bad parents are. Whoever sends hate mail, I'm like, yep, bad parent. Bad parent. Not your kid's fault. You're a bad parent.
But you're right about, teaching kids to respect authority and how they carry that into each environment that they're in. I mean, I did some work at a behavioral school program, and one of my first clients there told me about how she beat up her last therapist. And I was like, oh okay.
She's letting you know.
yeah, she was. She was letting me know. I was like, okay. I hope you don't try that here.
Right.
Because it's not going down like that. Right.
And the problem is you have to do that now to disarm this person. You got to let them know, I'll take it there like whoever, you know what I mean? Because that's all she responds to is fear. The problem with today is kids only respond to fear. They don't respond to authority. Like, if they're not afraid of the situation, they don't care. I'll walk up and shoot this whole club up because I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of getting caught. I don't fear that, So they're only afraid, but they're afraid of their big homies, right? If their big homie stepped up and told them they're not moving on their big homie because they're afraid of them. And that's because they're operating out of fear, and that's the problem. We need to stop using I remember even at the program, they were like, yo, I'm smacking you out of love. I'm restraining you out of love. I said, stop saying that.
Yeah.
You're really messing these kids up because they were already too aggressive as it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're saying, okay, you can be aggressive out of love. No, that's not okay. And we're just passing that down as parents, and that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're passing that down. And if it's not, like I said, if it's not the physical, it's the, you going in timeouts for a longer period of time, or I'm gonna ignore you, or I'm gonna say things to you that are just, I remember one little girl was saying that something happened in class. I think they were showing each other their private parts, or something like that. Something that sometimes kids do, a little sexual exploration. And the mom's like, yeah, your sexual parts are gonna fall off. So now they're afraid for somebody to see their stuff because they don't want to fall off. Like you just put these things in these kids' heads that unchallenged can become an issue as they grow up.
Yeah.
You gotta be really, or like the one girl farted. She works with me. She farted one time in front of her mom, and she's like, "Girl, you better stop farting because what did she say? She said stop farting because of something. Can't remember what she said was gonna happen, but so the little girl from then on was holding her farts in.
Oh God!
And as she got older, she had gastrointestinal issues.
Oh no!
Right, because her mom jumped on her and made her feel some type of way, and now she has gastrointestinal problems. You feel me? Wow. Can't even poop right because it's my mom. So that's what their parents, we know that as parents, what they do to us, it makes us who we are. It definitely makes us who we are. So if we're in any type of corporal punishment, kneeling on rice and all that type of dumbass stuff, it just doesn't allow that kid to learn how to verbalize and talk.
Holding books.
Yeah.
Doing physical exercise.
What does that really do? Now again, it's tough. I think I just don't think hitting is ever the answer. I really don't think any type of corporal punishment is the answer. Like I don't think hollering at kids really is effective. Because to me, it's a loss of control.
So you ran out of you ran out of other ideas.
That's what I feel. And again, and it should be used like, say, if you're gonna touch the stove, then hey, boom, yo, don't do that. And that should be so uncommon for that to scare the hell out of her. And she stops. If you're yelling all the time, then where's the effectiveness of it? Right? That is not effective anymore if you yell all the time. It should be very rarely that you use some of these things, that it really shocks that, oh, wait a minute, it shouldn't be a common thing. And that's what I said. I think we need to continue to grow and try to find different ways of rearing our children that are more positive, and it may seem like, oh, this is whack, or that's a white way of doing things. Let's break out of that. Let's just find a way that we can effectively rear our children, effectively.
And raise healthy people.
And before you have children, go to therapy because you're broken. That's why you're doing the things you're doing. Parents are broken. They get to
go to therapy, take some parenting classes.
Right. Do something. Read a book. Something. YouTube it. Because I hate when parents just go and they really go off of what they know. Like it'll develop. Comes with time. Some things do come with time, right? But other things, you want to try to find different things, different outlooks, different viewpoints on things, and then put it together and make it work for you. Just don't do what you know. That's always terrible. Never do only what you know. That's terrible. That's when you acting like your mom, who was either overbearing or maybe they weren't at all. They were like, whatever, go do whatever. You don't want that either. So it's tough, but I just don't think that corporal punishment. But then I guess when we talk about corporal punishment, like I said, among cultures, I think it may differ too what they feel is corporal punishment and what is not. Now I see that a lot too, where sometimes they'll do things like, this is not corporal punishment.
Right. Yes. Get to know your kids.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what you got to watch him. Because if little
Mm-hmm.
man looking the window, he ain't gonna be able to listen. I'm just saying, he ain't gonna listen right.
And calling him stupid is not going to
Yeah,
help.
ain't gonna help one bit. You feel me? And that's the thing. If you got like a new kid, if he's banging his head in the walls, yeah, he probably a beating ain't gonna help. That's outside of a beating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what the parents have to really. Sometimes their egos get in the way, and they don't want to believe that they have a child that's messed up, that a
That
little
has
off, that
special
may need some help.
needs. May
Yeah,
have some
yeah, you don't
special
believe
needs.
it because you
Mm-hmm.
feel like it makes
Because
you
it's,
make bad as a parent.
yes. It's a reflection of you. A lot of people
Yeah,
think.
like
Yeah.
my seed is good. I got good seed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe you don't, right?
Maybe you don't.
Maybe you don't. All we know is that man is licking the window,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't care how many times you tell him to stop. You should know the first time he was licking the window, he had a problem. But definitely the second. If you didn't know the first, definitely the second. We need to get
Right.
him some help. We need
Yes,
to get
yes,
him some.
yes,
This is bigger than us. Some things are
yes.
bigger than us.
Yes,
It
yes.
definitely is. It definitely
And
is bigger than
smacking
us.
him in the mouth is not going to stop it.
No,
Yeah.
and for me, I think you're a better parent to say, "I need help with this situation."
Mm-hmm.
Right? I respect the parent that says, "I need help with the situation. They're acting up. I don't know what to do." I
Mm-hmm.
respect you. Then a parent,
Mm-hmm.
then you're trying to beat them or trying to cuss them out into submission or not talk to them. It's just not to me. I want a parent to say, what's best for my child. I don't know what to do in this situation. I need help. So can you help me to help my child?
Mm-hmm.
That's a win. You
Mm-hmm.
both are going to grow. You both, the child will see you like, look, mom, try to get me help. Nothing wrong with getting help. And that relationship, your relationship is going to be stronger from that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
you're doing it together too. You're doing it together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big takeaways is that, you know, it could mess up your relationship with your kid.
mm,
The corporal punishment and being
mm,
really harsh on them and not finding out what's wrong with or what's going on with them. I'll say, what's going on with them could definitely interfere in the type of relationship you have. And because I've come across so many people in therapy who talk about some of the things that their parents did and that their parents have no idea has really messed up their relationship.
right, right, right. Because in the beginning, children love their parents independently of what they do to them, right?
Yes,
We
yes,
love them. But as they get
yes.
older and they're like, I shouldn't feel this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom shouldn't be doing this. And like you said, as they get older, they really, have this deep resentment for their parent that the parent didn't know. Then will kicks didn't have the effect that they thought they did.
Mm-hmm.
We're not as close because you used to beat me up.
Mm-hmm.
And in the
Mm-hmm.
parents' mind, like I said, I was doing it because I loved you and I didn't want these
Mm-hmm.
streets to get you. And I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
keep you from being in the street. And I
Mm-hmm.
get what the parent is saying, but you just went about it all the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you,
But
you like I
again,
said, you,
if they know what they know,
right,
if
right,
that's how
right,
they
right.
were raised, then yeah, that's
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
how they're gonna raise their kid because it seemed like it was good enough.
Yeah, I turned out fine.
Yes. Yes.
I did good. Well,
Yes.
again, usually the I turned out fine. I did good. Have a lot of issues because we all do, and you're just and you're just lying to yourself about how fine you are, right? A lot of times we're lying to ourselves about how fine we are because we're trying to we forget how bad it really was, or we try to ignore it and we push those things down.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not fine if you were beat. You feel
Mm-hmm.
me? You're not if beat alive.
And you get into and you see how it plays out in your relationships, or you can't figure out why your relationships don't work the way
You
they
understand?
you want them
Hey,
to.
it didn't affect me. I'm fine, but I can't keep a relationship. I can't
Mm-hmm.
keep a job.
Mm-hmm.
I explode easily.
Mm-hmm.
I handle everything with my hands. Well, you're not as good
Mm-hmm.
as you think you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're not as fine as you think you are.
Mm-hmm.
So so I like we just as parents have to, you want to break the cycle. I think every parent, whatever you did, whatever you learned is cool, but you want to break that cycle and really learn some new things, especially with, we have a lot more knowledge now. We can try different things to get our children to work. And I mean, and the other thing too is like, even if we're using, if they are beating the kid, like, what are you beating them for? Like, what's your barometer? Like, do you have a level of when a beating is used?
Or when it's enough? Like, do you hit them 3 times? Do you hit them 10 times?
Absolutely. Yeah. You stripping butt naked. I mean, that's crazy too. I'm butt naked and you're beating me. Like, this is not good for either one of us. This is traumatizing for everybody involved, right? But that's my thing. Like, just because a kid gets smart in school, is that a butt beating? What if they don't put their clothes up? Is that a beating? And that's what I'm saying. These things don't have a rhyme or reason. So now the kid can't even adjust to when is a beating, or if I do something small, is it a beating? Like, you can't even adjust. It just seems like now they're really guessing. It seems tough. I know.
Well,
it's tough
it usually depends on how angry the parent gets. That's usually what it's based on. Absolutely.
And I think the corporal punishment, the worst punishment ever, is when we get home and whoop your ass in that car ride home. You're anxious.
Yes.
As you get close to your street, get upstairs. Then that's the worst. Now you had to anticipate this butt beating for 15 minutes on the car ride home, and that gave them time to get more and more mad. I can't believe, and they talk. I can't believe your ass up here embarrassed me again. Wait till we get home and whoop that. And they get madder and madder. You said. So now when you get home, that ass whooping is on fire. Fuego. Put you right to sleep after that.
Yes.
But see, that's what I'm saying. The butt beating was really only for that moment, because it put you to sleep, and you had some of the best sleep of your life.
After you done cried yourself to sleep. What
You wake up like, birds chirping. That was the best sleep ever. I might get another ass whooping tonight. I ain't slept like that ever. So that's the thing. So when I think that if you lose something that you really want, that next day, that feeling is still lingering of the loss, which makes it more beneficial than a beating who is for that time. The beating you can't beat me every day for the same thing, right? But if I don't have this thing every day, I'm cool. I remember getting beatings, but I had everything in my room. So I'm like, okay, my butt hurts. I'll just, I can't sit down, but I'm play the game.
Yeah.
I'm lay on stomach.
So, and you're right. I remember rather getting a beating than some other stuff happened. Like, have to stay in the house. I didn't want to stay in the house.
No. Hey, can I get a beating?
Yes.
I'll take a beating for 2 days if I can go out, because that beating was only for the moment. You feel me? And if you can move around and get hopefully a couple of the swings miss, be all right. You feel me? You run around, and that's what I would try to run around and tire them out, and then it wasn't as bad.
Stay still. Stop running.
No. But then if you have brothers and sisters, then the more brothers and sisters you have, you just want to be last because they tired by the time they get to you. That's another thing. So now I know, position myself. We do something, I'm positioning myself near the end. So
I actually learned that early. Yes, I had my brother and my cousin and we all that lived with us. And I was like, I'm gonna be last.
Right, because they only got a good 30 seconds in them. So after that first beating, the level decreases. That last one, you might get a hit. Go down, go lay down. Oh, yeah, all right. You take the cry. I hurt so bad.
Yes.
So that's beating. Corporal punishment definitely in a group don't do effectiveness, because you can't even give everybody the same punishment. Oh no!
Never run.
It ain't way worse because you out of breath. What you mean? I'm winning. You thought you did more, but you did less. In your mind, you did more because you travel more ground by chasing me. But your normal seven swipes, you got 3. Grandma Ruth. Never. In your mind you don't, but you do. They feel the difference. Like, yo, you run around 2 minutes and her strength goes down. You feel the difference in the lapses. Like, yo, they soft after that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Grandma Ruth, you think you're doing something, but you ain't.
Wow.
So I guess what's the consensus? Corporal punishment bad?
That's what Daryl said. Corporal punishment is bad, and you're a bad parent if you have to use it.
Terrible parent, actually. That's what I'm saying. Hey, give me all the hate mail so I know who the bad parents are. I'm telling you again. I'm gonna respond to any hate mail with bad parent.
He's just gonna reply bad parent.
Bad parent, or you're the reason your kid always acting up. It's your fault.
All right, you
Thank
heard
yourself.
it here. You heard it here, people. You heard it here tonight. That's his word, and he's sticking to it.
That's it. It's my take on it. Bad parent. Mm-hmm. Put the belts down. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Put them down.
Put the belt. So I'm assuming you've never used it with your daughter.
I wouldn't listen. Just thinking about that would have me go crazy. I don't yell at her. I don't hit her. I don't touch her. And if someone did, it would be a serious problem.
Okay.
Right? It's a serious problem. Because I think that for the most part, children are pretty good. Right? Mm-hmm. Give me a small. Mm-hmm. I think for the most part, kids are pretty good. And I know they're going to make some mistakes. And as they make their mistakes, we're going to work through them. We're going to talk about it. We're going to address why it was a mistake, why it shouldn't be done. And try to do it that way. Like I said, and if I see she's constantly doing something, she's constantly getting in trouble, then there may be something else. And I know that for my own self. There may be something else. We'll have someone else step in to give me some help, give her some help to try to get, the desired result. But just because a kid messes up, I don't want them to think the world is coming to an end, because we all mess up, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to mess up. So I hate parents too. Stop thinking your children are going to be perfect, right? You have to make room for them to mess up. We all mess up. That's how we grow, right? Mm-hmm. But you have to help them through those mess ups to be a better person as they grow. Right. You can't always just jump on them and cuss them out. So my experience has been, I didn't need that, and to the point where she's like, yeah, I did that. But this is my consequence. She'll be upset, but she'll accept her consequence. Right. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, she's pretty much, like I said, most kids I see are pretty good kids who just mess up from time to time. It doesn't take that level of, like, even if she gets into, like, she got into a couple fights. Hey, why'd you get in a fight? Hey, that's not really a reason you should be fighting, right? I'm not going to beat her for that or anything like that. We're going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So I don't see a lot of behavior. I mean, as any kid, you can tell them things 3 or 4, 900 times, pick your clothes off the floor, do this. But I already know we have to continue to be consistent and say the same thing over and over again. Eventually, they'll get it. But I don't see anything. There's nothing that I can see me wanting to put my hands on her for. Nothing. Because if something happened, we have to talk it out and see why she did it. Right? What was her process? And just work through it. I don't see, and like I said, I wouldn't. And that's why even dating, like if your ideology is you can beat kids, then you might as well beat your feet, because we out. We ain't gonna work. Because don't raise your hand to her, because then we have problems.
We already know where you stand on that there.
Yeah, we ain't doing that. So, and again, there's no kid I've ever really been around that, cousins, nieces, all of them who may act out and different things. There's not one time I felt I had to put my hands on them or raise my voice. I still am very consistent, and they usually listen to you once they get to know you're consistent. Kids are trying to testing us the whole time too. They're looking for that chink in the armor. They're looking for you not to be different. They're looking for you to let them get away with something. But if you're consistent, for the most part, they know, like, oh man, he ain't gonna never let us do that. they're not going to do it. They're going to stop doing it.
Right.
But that's because you have to be consistent and you have to be aware of what the kids are doing and what they're not doing and what you're saying and how you're saying it.
So you mean you got a parent? You got a parent.
Have to parent.
You have
to parent. Which these parents don't do because they take the easy way out and they want to beat the kids. These bad parents. So no. So how about you? Spankings are?
I've used it with my daughter, but I could count the number of times on one hand. Mm-hmm. My daughter was a fast learner.
Was she a fast learner, or did you learn to teach differently?
I think a little bit of both.
Now, how did you feel beating your child? How did it make you feel?
I always felt bad.
Okay.
I always felt bad afterwards.
Right.
Always. And because I knew that when I think of the times that I did hit her, it was out of my own frustration. Right. Mm-hmm.
See, and that's what I'm saying.
She might have said something because since she could talk from 2 years old, she was always saying something smart.
Yeah. Being her mom. Mad at her being you. Go ahead.
She always had something smart to say.
Right. I can't believe this 2-year-old gonna talk to me like that.
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's been out of frustration and out of something that came out of her mouth usually. Because she wasn't a bad kid. She listened. Mm-hmm. She was very responsible most of the time.
Right. Yep.
So I didn't, and just like most kids, she kept her room messy for a while, but as she became a teenager, that started changing.
Right. You got to give them room to grow and learn, mm-hmm. and without the will kicks and uppercuts,
Well, it was never none of those. It's always a hand.
Yeah. But it's funny.
No extension cords.
None of that. Yeah. But you think about it, a lot of times kids are just displaying what they see. So they're acting out usually because of something that you're doing. It's a learned behavior, mm-hmm. So what the kids are doing is what they're seeing, if they're, mm-hmm. Or they're allowed to do. They're jumping on the couch or whatever case may be, it's because they're allowed to do it.
Thank you, Neil.
It's a bad parent support group going on, I see. So, and to be honest, what I'll say in your case, I think that it was we all had some bad habits, but you corrected them. You're like, yo, this mm-hmm. really doesn't work. And like I said, because I don't see how you can beat your kid and not feel terrible. Mm-hmm. Like I would feel terrible to physically hit my daughter and mm-hmm. see her cry and have, I would just feel terrible independently of what she did. That would mm-hmm. break me, right? That would break me. To put my hands on her, or just about any kid. Like, I'm like, how am I hitting this defenseless kid? Like, kids need to mm-hmm. be protected. So how am I doing this? Like, what am I detaching so it allows me to go up top on this kid? Mm-hmm. Or what have I learned to say that this is okay? So that's what I said. For me, it just seems so odd to want to hit your kid or beat them or get on their face or anything like that. Because I'm like, it doesn't work as a grown-up. That doesn't work in the real world. So why are we saying it's okay mm-hmm. to do this to a child? And that's how I look at it. That doesn't work anywhere else, but we're saying it works for a child. And mm-hmm. I think it doesn't. It definitely does a lot. It works a lot in the opposite way for children. And I think the last thing I'll say, the problem is that some of these kids do turn out to be okay. Like, well, they made it. They're good kids. But like I said, they made it in spite of. And the parent, well, I beat my kid, look at him, he's a lawyer. Well, in spite of you beating them, he became a lawyer, right? And we don't know what issues he has personally.
That goes home and choke his wife every now and then.
That's what I say, yes. We don't know what issues they have because of that. You see some of the fruits, but you don't know what they're going through, how they feel inside, how they bond to people. Or like you kind of said, you don't know how they feel about you. They may mm-hmm. love you, but they don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
I love you.
That's what I see
like
a lot of. That's what I see a lot of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So keep beating your kids so they don't love you. I mean, they love you, they don't like you.
Mm. And then they come tell me all about it.
They don't come see me a lot because they don't like you. Mm-hmm. They love you, they don't like you. Because I know no one wants to go back into an abusive situation. You don't want to go back in that situation and remember the abuse, because something could happen and remind you of the abuse you had, if it was contingent upon how bad it is. So like I said, any parent that learns that, all right, I did beat and I stopped, that's a good parent. Like you progress. You try something different. But if you're continuing to beat, then that's just silly. That's silly and uncreative. and don't say anything, Ruth.
All right, guys. I think those are the last words on Corporal Punishment. Send all your hate mail to Daryl on Relationship Flow or his own personal page.
Right.
And he will respond with bad parent.
Yeah, put in the subject bad parent, right? So I know. So you'll know.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good night.
Any topics of interest, let us know, and we will bring them and potentially invite you on if you really want to discuss it with us. So
unless you're a bad parent, don't write us.
All right, you can catch us on the replay, YouTube, Instagram, and Relationship Flow. Good night, everybody.
Good night.